Truth Plus Media.
Welcome to another edition of Iconic Sonics. I'm your host, Mike Gastineau. Iconic Sonics is brought to you by Rise Above, a nonprofit organization that educates Washington's Native youth through sports and especially basketball. You can learn more about the great work they're doing at nativeyouthriseabove.org. Our show is also brought to you by Epic Seats, a trusted local business with tickets to the events you love in Seattle. EpicSeats.com. Nothing beats Epic Seats. And a big thanks to our media partner, Seattle Magazine. Get more information about them at seattlemag.com. And by the beautiful Swinomish Casino and Lodge. They'll have a new sports book open soon. You should get up to Anacortes and visit the beautiful casino and lodge today. Swinomish Casino and Lodge, proud partner of Iconic Sonics. For starters, Alyssa Charlston is with us as our co-host today. And for Alyssa and I, it's our first chance to work together, although you've been on other shows with Iconic Sonics. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Pumped to be here, Gas. Thank you. Hopefully we don't ruin this thing together.
Well, my plan is not to ruin it. And I don't know how we could, because we're running this right at the tail end of March Madness. The Final Four is this weekend. The championship is next Monday night. And there's a guy who is our guest today who this time of year, the memories must wash over you. He's a former Sonic. He's part of the Truth Plus Media family because he hosts a podcast called Run It Back. Big Ten great, Michigan State great, NCAA champion Mateen Cleaves, and former Sonic. I saved the best for last. Former Sonic. Mateen, good to see you. And I assume I'm correct in saying the memories must wash over you just like a nice warm bath almost this time of year. It must just feel great when you think about what you were doing 23 years ago this week.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? I always get excited around this time. It's like a holiday for me. Every time March Madness comes around, and I never forget when I spoke with Magic Johnson after we won a national championship. He told me, he said, congratulations. He said, but you won't appreciate this until you start getting a little older. Mm-hmm. And when you get older, you'll look back and you'll appreciate it even more. So he was 100% right. Like I always go back down memory lane around this time. And for me, what a great time. I really enjoyed it. And to win your last, college basketball game and to win a national championship, something you always dream about, is something that just get better with time.
And you were a Final Four MVP and national champion in 2000. What is it like for some of us seeing guys like Marquise Noel? And I'm sorry, I know they took down your Michigan State Spartans, but to be in that flow state and do something that most of us at home don't know what it's like. Can you explain some of that, what it's like when you're in front of a national audience and you were injured for part of it, I know, with the ankle? What's that like?
Well, you said I was a Final Four MVP. I didn't say it, so I didn't brag, okay?
It's all me. I said it.
Well, thanks for setting me up and making me look good. But, to be honest, you so locked in on the task at hand. I know for me, like, I didn't really get caught up in the hoopla or the hype. I was kind of locked in. My first year making it to the Final Four, I was just excited to be there. But then that next year, having the experience, we were on a mission. Our goal that year was not just to make it to the Final Four, but to win a national championship. And to see these kids on this stage, I just enjoy it. And I'm so happy for them. You're on the biggest stage, one of the biggest stages in sports in general. And to go out, to have that opportunity, man, I appreciate it for these kids so much. I watched, Noel. He was, what a player. What a player. And I talked to him afterwards. I just told him, I appreciate the way you play the game, the toughness you play the game with, your ability to make everybody around you better. That's something that I just appreciate, being an ex-point guard. So it was such a joy to watch him, even though he beat up on my Spartans. It was a joy to watch him put on a show in the guard.
Mateen, now that you've got a few years to look back on it, it always strikes me, and I'm older than you, it strikes me as I'm watching this as a passionate fan, and you're yelling and you're screaming, and occasionally I got to go, hang on a minute. These are 20-year-olds. They're 21. I mean, I always say you come into college, you're still kind of a high school boy maybe, and then you get out and you're a college man or girl and woman. In other words, those 4 years, that's a transformation that you make personality-wise. But we sit back and go, hang on, you're yelling at these kids or telling them to do something, and they're kids, they're still learning it, right?
100%. And they are kids. And I think some people look at them totally different because they are on the big stage. They are on TV. They are, especially nowadays. I mean, with this social media thing, they're celebrities nowadays. So,
right.
And you forget that they are kids, especially the people that bet on the game. They really, really, really go to town on these kids. But that's something we do have to realize. And I always celebrate for the ones that were able to win it and have good memories around these times. But then again, I feel bad for some of these kids because if you got some kids that may make a bonehead play or miss a shot or a free throw or something like that and lose a game. And that's stuff that they will hold on probably for the rest of their life.
And they can get crucified, especially on Twitter or like social media. Describe that aspect. I mean, Twitter wasn't really a thing. Being able, like random anonymous Dave 1 2 3 4 5 6 wasn't able to tell you that your jumper was broke. Like this generation has to deal with something that's totally different than maybe there was in the past. Different kind of pressures. The other thing I also want to talk about is just like the transfer portal, because you had an experienced Michigan State team. You had some juniors and some seniors. We're seeing less of that. Like FAU has more of that, and it's their first. This is the first time they've won at the NCAA tournament. What do you think the transfer portal kind of takes away in that aspect? Because a lot of guys will go to one school, have a great year, and then leave a mid-major to go somewhere bigger.
Well, good question. And I'll answer the first one first when you asked about not having to deal with the social media. I didn't. And you said it in a nice way. I mean, talking about, you suck. And I mean, these people will say some crazy things on social media. I remember I first joined Twitter and I was like, whoa, like I was just trying to interact and have fun. And like people kind of went in like, wow. I'm like, oh, wow. So that was a challenge. And I didn't have to deal with that. So that's something as far as mentally, I think coaches and even I got a 13-year-old son that play. Like I'm kind of raising him to have that mental toughness because people are going to say things about you. And at the end of the day, I told him they're not guarding you. Somebody on Twitter, they're not out there, stopping you from making a basket or whatever. So don't get caught up in what people are saying, but it is a part of it. So you have to be able to endure it and keep moving forward and not take it personal. The transfer portal, man, it is so different, Alyssa. I mean, you look at it's a couple ways you can look at that. You look at some of these kids that transfer in and you say, well, are they really bought in to the new school that they transfer to? Because you got 1 year. Are you bought into the culture? Are you bought into the tradition? Are you do you appreciate the alumni and people that have played there before? I know when I was at Michigan State, I appreciated our alumni. I loved our tradition. Everything about Michigan State, I was embedded in it. I don't know if you can get that with some of these kids in the transfer portal. And I have mixed emotions about it. I love the fact that the kids do have, I won't say the power, they have choice, if they don't want to be at a school or that. So to each his own, but then again, I look at some of these kids and I think they just give up too early. Like you might have a freshman that played nice 7 to 10 minutes. Back when I was coming up, that was promise. If you were a freshman and you got on the floor, you had a good opportunity. I mean, everybody looked at you as you were going to be a good player at some point. You had to come in and earn your stripes, and maybe, in a year or two or 3 years, you earn yourself some playing time. Now, they're not doing that. And it's funny, I had a conversation with some college coaches, and it kind of blew my mind when they were telling me, like, listen, you play at the end of the season, your coach would say, hey, this is what I want you to work on. I want you to work on this, this, and this, and this. When I see you in the next 3 months, this is what you need to be better at. Well, now the conversation is, did you like your role? Did you play enough minutes? Are you coming back to next year? It's totally different. And I just, I don't really know what to say about it. I mean, to each his own, but it is different.
Mateen, do you think obviously there's a chance that what I'm going to say is what's going to happen, which is I think there'll be some yin and yang here. I think for a while now, it's the shiny new toy on Christmas Day, and everybody wants to look in the transfer portal and see what I can do to make myself better. And that over the course of some years, there's going to be enough stories like the one you just talked about. Hey, look, if you'd stayed here, a natural path would have opened up. I'm with you. I think it's good that players have freedom. I think that's how the rest of college works. You should be able to go where you want. I think it will contract eventually. I think we'll see fewer. It's never go back down to zero. The transfer portal is here to stay. But you know what I mean? I think there's going to be more guys that will start looking at some of the stories and say, no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stick it out here because I see what we're doing and I like where we're going.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I hope it gets like that. You see it starts in AAU basketball. You got a kid that's not playing enough. His dad will just start his own AAU team. And it's easy to walk away. And like I said, I'm not judging, to each his own. But for me personally, like, hey, and listen, I don't know if you was like me, but I had a great career at Michigan State. But I thought about transferring 10 times my freshman year because it's just, you're just a snotty-nosed freshman. You were so used to being recruited and kind of pampered, and then you get there and the roles change. They're not telling you how great you are. Like, you're just a little freshman that's always making mistakes at that point. And I know I was coached hard. But hey, man, like, for me, take it on. Take the challenge. And this is one thing too. Let me say this. A lot of kids get hurt. The transfer portal, there's a lot of kids that don't get picked up. So they go in these transfer portals and they don't get picked up, or the graduation rate took a big hit as well. Because a lot of these kids' classes don't transfer to the other schools. So if you're going to do it, be strategic, do your homework, and make sure that, you at least can definitely get your degree when you do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. My coach literally joked with me that I should transfer because we ran a play wrong and it was a bad time. He was like, if you want to run this play your way, you can transfer. And I was like, should I? But nothing better than like having left an imprint. And I've heard you say it, like, leave your footprint in the sand. That was a Tom Izzo thing at Michigan State. Like, I left an impact at Idaho. And no matter how corny it sounds, like, it's really cool to be able to say that and like say that you changed the program. And oh my goodness, did you change a program? I mean, Big Ten has struggled as a conference to win a national championship, and you were part of that. I am curious, as you're looking at March Madness, as it's down to the Final Four, it's Miami, it's FAU, it's UConn, and San Diego State. Is there a player that stood out to you and that, that there's one that you're watching, or a team that you particularly like to watch?
You know what? I like, Noel, I was following him for Kansas State. I mean, he was hard not to watch. And unfortunately, they got beat. But you know what? Watching UConn, and my guy, Ray Allen, I know he'll like this because I played with him in Seattle. But like, I really, really, really love the way they play. Right now, they're my favorite because, they have size. They got shooters. They can play any style, which I think that's key in the NCAA tournament. You're going to have to be able to play any style, slow down, get out in the transition and play. And then they play so well together. Great coach over there in Hurley. And we know his background and, from his father and his brother. And but UConn, I watched them the last couple games, and they are really good. They play the right way. They play so well together. So I would probably, lean a little more towards them right now as my favorite to win it all.
Well, and they took Gonzaga out and just, really destroyed them. I think it was shocking to everyone out here. Let me ask you about Gonzaga, Mateen, because, there's a knock on them. Oh, yeah, they're good every year, and they never get to the championship, never win the title. And I'm like, and Tom Izzo's a great example of this. Does it make Tom Izzo any less of a great coach that he hasn't won a title since 2000? Of course not. What Gonzaga proves, in my opinion, what Michigan State being good every year, in my opinion, what they prove is it's hard to win the championship. It's hard to win those 6 games in a row at the end. And yeah, it would be great for everybody out here, for the people who are fans of Gonzaga, if they could do it. I get a little weary of hearing people trash them like, yep, see, you can't win the big one. I'm like, hang on a minute. they've been pretty good. Talk about being good for that length of time, because your alma mater falls into that too. It's hard to stay good for that length of time.
100%, man. I have the ultimate respect for Gonzaga and what they've been able to do. When you're playing good, people love to hate you, and that's a part of it. Coach Izzo, I mean, he made a joke one time. He was saying, our fans at one point thought, Final Four was a part of the schedule. That was and sometimes fans, they get a little spoiled, but Gonzaga has nothing to hold their head down for. They've had a huge imprint on college basketball, man, lately here. So for me, it's always a joy to watch them. I love that team with Suggs, that team that they had. Man, they were fun to watch. But I mean, you can go back to years to come and talk about plenty of Gonzaga players and teams and what they've been able to do. So, man, fans are going to say what they're going to say. The Zags, I wouldn't pay no attention to it. And the same with Michigan State. Continue to play. And I think, even with coaches, he can't win a big one. He can't win another one. It was whatever, man. Both teams and both programs has done a heck of a job in college basketball.
Yeah, that national championship was crazy. I was actually in Indianapolis. I worked for Gonzaga that year when Jalen Suggs hit that buzzer beater. Insane. It was just, I don't know how you come back and try to play a national championship after that in the title.
Right.
Crazy. I'm curious, Tom Izzo has been there forever, and I know he's a huge role model for you. Why do you think he's never gone NBA?
You know what? His care for kids. That's why he hasn't went, man. He really gets a kick out of like Mike kind of said, like turning young boys into men, and having an impact on their lives. And people see him hollering and screaming and shouting, and he holds his team highly accountable, of course, as you should, as your parents would do. But they don't get the chance to see the times that you're sitting in his office and just shooting the breeze with him. And like for Coach Izzo, he has a genuine love and care for you. That. That's why kids continue to go there. And that's why we never took it personal when he held us accountable. And what he does is when you come there day one, he asks you your goals. He asks you, what are you trying to accomplish? And of course, as a great leader, he's going to hold you accountable to that. And he would say stuff to me like, you told me you wanted to go to the NBA. Like, come on. Like, and you play like this? You're not going to get to the NBA, playing like that. So it's things like that, man. But he does. I mean, he can't leave those kids, man. He cares too much. He loves having an impact on their lives. And that's something that as players, we appreciate from Coach Izzo. So could he coach in the NBA? Yep. But I'm glad he didn't leave. I'm glad he's staying because he has a bigger impact on these kids and their future outside of sports, but just helping raising them as become men.
You snap a clipboard in half in front of college kids and they're still impressed. You do that in the NBA, they're like, hey, what time are we going to the club? Nobody's going to be all that impressed with it. He's a perfect fit there. Back to your run, Mateen. I want to ask you if you remember anything in particular that Coach Izzo did or said, or that you guys did or said, because on January 20th of 2000, you guys lose to Ohio State. You're 12-5. You're good, but you're nothing special. Doesn't look like you're anything special. From that game on, you had 22 more games, including the tournament. You go 20-2. You win those games by an average of 19 points per game. You beat Michigan by 51 points. You beat them again by 20. What happened? What happened for the Spartans when they go 20-2 and just start running teams out of the gym when you were 12-5 and looking like that's going to be an okay year? Was there anything you remember that clicked right then?
Well, I think we were just still finding our footing. I broke my foot at the beginning of that season.
That's right.
So I was trying to work myself back into true form. We had different people that was, kind of scrambling with different positions. And, we just stayed the course. And that our whole focus, to be honest, Mike, that year was to get ready to win a national championship. It's kind of like some of those good playoff teams, you just, you want to just get to the playoffs, and once you get there, it's a whole different mind frame. And very few people can hit that switch. But to be honest, we had went to the Final Four the year before. Our whole focus was getting back to the tournament and winning the national championship. But we knew We just started paying more attention to detail, staying more laser focused. And I think that was one of the main reasons why we were able to go on a run.
Hey, last thing before we're gonna move to the Sonics here in a minute, but I put a lot of work in today, guys. While you guys were off doing whatever you were doing, Alyssa and Mateen, goofing off, I was here doing work, and you guys brought this up.
I see you.
Yeah,
Right?
you're right. You guys brought this up, so I'll tell you that. And people know Mateen Cleaves, 2000 Michigan State. I think people know that by now. Alyssa had a great career at the University of Idaho. Okay, so quick quiz here. Alyssa played 130 games for Idaho, and Mateen played 123 for Michigan State. So you talk about putting a mark in the sand. You both did. Who, and we'll ask both of you, who averaged more points per game? Who was the better scorer? Mateen, was it you or Alyssa?
I'm going to say Alyssa.
Okay, Alyssa, what do you say?
Mateen, Final Four MVP?
It's Mateen by 0.3 of a point. Mateen averaged 12.5 points a game. Alyssa averaged 12.2. Okay, 3-point shooting. Who do you want with the rock outside the arc? Alyssa, you or Mateen?
I didn't take a ton. I'm gonna go with my 3-point percentage.
All right. What about you, Mateen?
Yeah, she might got me on that one.
She got you 36 to 32.
Oh,
now, what about
because I didn't take
shooting?
many. That's the only reason.
What about free throw shooting? Who do we want on the line late in the game? Mateen, who's the better free throw shooter?
Not me.
Man, I'm trying to think. What was my free throw percentage? I'm gonna say Alyssa.
No, you got her 73% to 67.
Oh, okay.
We don't want Charlston on the line late in the game, or we're doomed. We need
and let me say this too. When the game was on the line, I probably shot 99%.
There you go. Final thing, and this is my favorite stat I looked up. Alyssa was more of a rebounder. She was a frontline player. Mateen, you were out on the running and distributing. Which number is greater, Mateen? Your assists per game for your career, or Alyssa's rebounds per game for her career?
You know what? She got that tough swagger to herself. So I'm going to say she had more rebounds.
What do you think, Alyssa?
I feel like I'm around the 8 range for rebounds, maybe 7. But this guy's an assist machine. I'm going to go with assists for him.
You both averaged 6.6. You averaged 6.6 rebounds a game. Mateen, you had 6.6 assists per game.
That's crazy.
Had 20 in your final
career.
Game. That's something. 6.6 for his career.
Wow.
Amazing.
Well done.
Wow.
So basically the same player, an inside player, an outside player. Alyssa, you were well, Mateen will be distributing the ball. We're going to need you to shoot the 3 and follow your shot since you're a good player. No screwing around. More of Iconic Sonics coming up. We're going to talk about Mateen's time here in Seattle and maybe the return of the team to Seattle as we continue with Iconic Sonics. Iconic Sonics with our special guest, former Sonic Mateen Cleaves, is brought to you by Simply Seattle, the biggest Sonics apparel store in the world. Locally owned by Sonics fans, you can get 15% off your order with the code ICONIC15 at simplyseattle.com. Our show is also brought to you by the legendary Edgewater Hotel, Seattle's only overwater hotel, offers unobstructed views of the Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains, gorgeous views of iconic sites in the Puget Sound. The Edgewater, the official hotel of Sonics fans everywhere. Mateen Cleaves is our guest on Iconic Sonics. I'm Mike Gastineau. Alyssa Charlston is our co-host today. And Mateen, it was a couple of years after you got out of Michigan State, and you'd been to a couple of different ports of call in your pro career, and you ended up in Seattle from about 2004 to about 2006. It was an interesting time. You got to play for Nate McMillan. You got to see the team had just gone through an ownership change. There was a lot going on in Seattle. What are your memories when you got? I remember you were a fan favorite. You were an outgoing guy as you are now. What do you recall about coming to Seattle and playing for the Sonics?
Well, first of all, I was just excited for the opportunity. As a kid, I was a big fan of Gary Payton. Oh man, I loved him and Sean Kemp. That duo. How could you not love them if you're a basketball fan? So just to have an opportunity to play in the same arena or wear the same jersey as those two, that was big time for me. And I came in as actually a free agent. It was two positions. It was I want to say 2 positions open And there was a ton of people that was trying to get those positions. And I think that year, me and Damian Wilkins end up winning, making the team as free agents. And they had brought a guy in, Ebo Ibrahim, and he had some guaranteed money. Funny story about that. He was like one of the best shooters in the world. And, you know, me and Damian was trying to make the team. So I was like, I'm going to guard him. I'm not going to let him shoot. So if I'm not taking him, I need you to guard him so he can't get that shot off. And it was funny. We end up both making the team, and I think they sent him back abroad. They didn't keep him. So that was exciting, you know, to have to kind of work and grind and just find a way to make the team.
The ender of careers over there. Send him back to Europe.
Yeah, not over here, baby. We'll catch you later.
Talk about another fantastic shooter when you were in Seattle, Ray Allen. Can you talk to us about some of his work ethic and how he became one of the best shooters in the country, in the world?
Listen, that's exactly what it is. It was his work ethic. And he wasn't a great shooter just because God-given ability. This dude worked at it. I mean, every shot he took, it looked the same. You know, the mechanics were great. I mean, it's just a picture perfect jump shot. And another thing I really think about Ray is like, he would always go to the arena, you know, when we played games. He would get to the arena 3 hours before everybody else. And he went through the same routine every game. So it was no surprise that he's one of the best shooters that the game has ever seen. He put the work in. And he was you're talking about, you know, whenever being on the floor with him, the game was so easy because he drew so much attention. But Ray Allen was a heck of a player. But some things that I'm glad I was able to be around him for a couple of years that I kind of tell my son is, you know, his work ethic. That's why he was a great shooter, because he put the time in.
Isn't that true of most of the great shooters you've known in your career? We all kind of think, oh, that's just a natural thing for them. Don't they all, I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them do put that work in, right? The pregame and all that. And it's a daily thing.
100%. That's what makes them great. Because especially on that level, I mean, everybody can play. But you guys like Ray Allen, some of the all-time great, man, their work ethic, man, it's unreal. And like I said, that's what really separated him, man. He would go to the gym hours before everybody else. You get to the gym, he's lathered in the sweat. Then he's staying after practice getting shots up. So no surprise that he's one of the best all-time shooters.
Gas asked about this a little bit, but what do you remember about Seattle as a basketball city? Because this city is so hungry for the NBA to come back. Were you like just the memories of playing at the Key and just that atmosphere and how they supported you?
One of the best times of my life. You talking about some fans, some supportive fans. Seattle has some of the best fans I've ever been around in my life. Oh my God. Like I really enjoy coming to the arena night in and night out. We knew we were going to have support from our fans. And it was a point like you would get to know the fans. I mean, they came out night in and night out to support you. And there were times where we probably could have easily, you know, lost games, but yet that crowd get going, you know, Ray hit a three, Rashad, you know, get a dunk. And next thing you know, we're winning that game. And because we drew a lot of energy off the great support of our crowd.
You mentioned Rashard Lewis, and you know, he's almost like the overlooked superstar in Sonic's history because he was such a great player. Were you on the trip to Japan for the 2 Houston games? Were you on that team yet, or did you join the team after that?
I think I came afterwards.
I was just going to ask because he threw in 51 that day, and it was like season opener. I mean, he was in Rashard. He's another one. I say this to so many guys. I think he'd be incredible in today's game with the perimeter shooting because that was his strength. He was really a unique player in that respect, a big guy who just could drain threes.
100%. And he was a matchup nightmare because what he would do, we would run a lot of screen and rolls with him and Ray Allen. We would put them in screen and rolls together. And if the guard switched, we throw it down on the block and he would just turn around and shoot over him. Or he'd pick and pop and knock down that shot, man. He was a matchup nightmare, man. He was so good. I think it was his first year he made the All-Star team when I played with him here. And man, like deservingly, like he was a problem. Like Rashad had game, man. And it was such an honor and a joy to be able to play along with him. Ray Allen, you know, those are some guys that really could play. But Rashad, like you said, I don't think he get the credit that he deserved because he was a matchup nightmare for a lot of other teams.
I'm curious. I think a lot of fans that tune into this podcast absolutely loved the Sonics of the 90s and your Sonics as well. Are there any great stories? And take a second to think about it with like Reggie Evans or Danny Folston or even Luke Ridnour and Nick Collison, like the funny characters, stuff that, people wouldn't be able to just find in a Wikipedia article.
Well, I would say like we were a family. Like that's one thing about us. Like, and I don't think we were like the last in the West, I think preseason. And then we ended up winning, I think, over 50 games and going to the second round. I think we ended up losing to the Spurs that year. But right. Man, we had a great team. Reggie Evans was a character, man. He would say anything. He would get up the other teams, he would get under their skin every game. It was somebody, he would get under their skin. He would flop, draw a foul on them, have somebody get throughout the game or technical fouls. Danny Fortson, he was such a monster, man. Like he was our like our Rick Mahorn, our bad boy. Like he scared everybody in the NBA. Daddy didn't take no mess from anybody. So he was our our warrior. We always knew Danny had our back. And then you look at Luke Ridnour, man, you talk about work ethic. He worked. Luke was one of those guys that was in the gym before and after. And I actually would work out a lot with Luke and earned a lot of respect for him from looking at his work ethic. Nick Collison. Nick Collison knew all the rap songs. Nick Collison loved to actually rap himself.
No way.
Oh, man. Every time we would go out, a freestyle bust out. We would just say Nick Collison would just start freestyling. And he was one of my all-time favorite teammates. I'm going to tell you another guy who probably don't get enough credit, but had game. Flip Murray.
Yeah.
Flip Murray was a problem. Guys hated to see him coming because he got that Philly game and so that East Coast, he handled the ball so well and did so much. Like Flip Murray was a problem for a lot of people as well. So, man, it was such a joy to be on that team. Nate McMillan did a heck of a job of leading our team. Funny story, he would always, make guys, they had to weigh in. And Danny Forster hated weighing in. Jerome James hated weighing in. And sometimes I would hang out with them guys after practice and get on the Stairmaster so they made their weight the next day so they wouldn't have to run after practice. But Nate McMillan, he held guys highly accountable, but he made a lot of people better when he was the coach of Seattle.
You played for some NBA legends, really, and Nate, Dwayne Casey was, I think, still there on that staff. Yep. Bob Weiss was on that staff and then becomes the head coach.
Good people.
NBA lifers, you know what I mean, in terms of coaching and playing and interesting styles for all three of them, right?
Yes, I learned a lot from all of them, man. And it's funny because I had a conversation with Nate when I was there, and he always told me if I wanted to get into coaching, let him know, because he would bring me on any moment, because I would sit up when I wasn't playing, I would sit next to the coaches, and I would, kind of nudge him and say, hey, let's try this or look at this matchup, and I think we could capitalize on certain matchups. But he was a great teacher. Bob Weiss, I appreciated him so much, man. When he took over as a head coach, a little bit of time, he played me, he trusted me and he put me out on the floor. And I always loved him. And Dwayne Casey, what a great coach. I mean, we had some great coaches. I was lucky to be around some great coaches. I learned a lot as far as basketball when I was in Seattle.
How important is it to have a strong culture too? Because you came to Michigan State when it wasn't the popular decision to go to Michigan State, helped build a culture there. Seattle had a culture built when Gary Payton was there. It was scary. It was trash talk and high flying Sean Kemp. How hard is it to build that NBA culture? And when you stepped into it in Seattle, did you feel it immediately? Because obviously we want to bring the team back. That's the goal. How long does it take to build that culture?
You know what? I think when your best player is a good guy, that helps. And Ray Allen was a good guy. Rashard Lewis was a good guys and hard workers. So that kind of set the stage for everybody else to be good guys and hard workers as well. And Nate McMillan, he was all about family and culture, and it's a we, not me. And I think he set the bar pretty high and set the tone early as far as the culture, but when you have great players that care about others and play well with others and play together, that makes it easy. But the fans, like you hit on, I mean, that's a culture as well. When the fans are coming out and supporting you, you have to go out and play hard. You know, it's only right when fans are coming out, showing up night in and night out. You know, you make it your duty to go out and compete. So Seattle definitely needs a team. It's a travesty that there's not an NBA team in Seattle right now. And I'm not saying that to be biased. I've been around in all these different arenas. Man, they don't get loud as Key Arena used to. They don't rock like that. Teams hated to come play in Seattle, you know, against Seattle, because they know that the fans are going to ride you and they were going to support their Sonics like none other.
I've said over the years that just about everybody involved in this whole story did something wrong except for one group, and that's the fans. The fans didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
You can assign blame here and there. The fans came out and supported the team, and it'll be a great day when, and I believe it's going to be when, the team is back. Have you and Matt, is it Ishbia? Did I get that last name right?
Yes, sir.
Have you had these kind of conversations? Now, Matt, you've worked with him, you've worked for him, you played with him at Michigan State, and oh yeah, he just bought the Phoenix Suns. Have you talked to him about, well, here's how you develop culture, or has he come to you? I mean, you're if you were in my building and I just bought a basketball team, I'm like, I'm gonna start going to lunch with Mateen every day, see what I can learn. How will he do as an owner, do you think?
He's gonna be great. He's gonna be great. Like, people are going to gravitate to Phoenix to play with him. He just has that, you know, that knowing how to connect with people. We had a culture at Michigan State, and it started way back then, a family culture, and you know, we'll do it together type mentality. And even at our company, United Wholesale Mortgage, that's what it's about. There's not one person bigger than the team. Everybody has equal value. And Matt, he'll tell you that out of his own mouth, and he's the owner. So he's going to do a fantastic job. And we do talk a lot about culture and, you know, work ethic and, you know, just taking care of people and doing things the right way. That's why I believe he's going to be a great owner. People are going to want to play for him, man, because he cares. He's played, you know, before, but he cares about the players that he'll be leading. And I'm telling you, I already know, man, he's going to win a championship there, man. I'm telling you, because he just has that it factor. He's a winner. Everything he's done, he's won. I mean, he's won the national championship at Michigan State. Our company right now, it's the #1 overall lender in America. And, you know, you buy a team and a few hours later you trade for Kevin Durant. Like he's going to make some moves, man. And he'll always be in the mix, you know, along with trying to win a championship for sure.
Yeah, the Phoenix Suns are going to be a team to watch for years to come. There's no doubt about it. Are you willing to be our inside source, since you have that connection with the front office over in Phoenix? You know, how quickly Seattle might get a team, that Adam Silver connection. Can you be our inside source?
Mateen, when are the Sonics coming back? Stop goofing around and tell us.
You know what? Be honest, it's always talk. It's always talk, you know, because I think Adam knows that Seattle is one of the best places that you can have a basketball team. So I'm sure he's doing everything in his power to try to figure out how to get a team back there. You know, it's only right. Like, NBA basketball without a team in Seattle just don't seem right. So I'm sure, and this is just me guessing, but I'm sure there's some behind the scenes things going on, because Seattle definitely deserves a basketball team.
Do you see yourself, like, say you work for Matt, and again, you go back to playing days with him. Let me back up before we go. What did he have much game? He was a walk-on. And I don't mean that as an insult. If you're walking on in a major college program, you can play the game. They don't just let somebody come in off the street and, oh, hey, here, have a basketball, and here's a jersey. Welcome to the team. What kind of player was he? Does it surprise you that this is the course his life has taken, to accumulate this much wealth and to buy an NBA team? Did you see anything like that in him when you were both 19-year-olds?
He didn't see that in himself. Like, who knows? You can imagine they're going to go do this.
Right.
But I got to stab him and give him some street cred. Matt could play. But if you think about it, he was behind 4 pros. You have myself, Charlie Bell, Morris Peterson, and Jason Richardson, you know, all played in the NBA. Matt could play. He wasn't the tallest guy, his stature, but one thing I fell in love with was his competitiveness. You know, he would compete. He knew all the little crafty things. He would grab you and hold you and hit your wrist when you're shooting the jump shot. And so I appreciated Matt so much. He made us better. You know, he made me better going night in and night out. You know, you playing in the game, and yeah, here's this guy is at practice coming at you every, you know, just, oh no, I don't care that you played 38 minutes last night. You know, we're going to have a good practice today. So he played a great role for our team. And so he did have game. He wasn't just one of those pieces that was on the Matt really could play.
We've seen the evolution of the game change so much from the 90s, where it was crazy defense and harassment, basically. And then the rules changed a little bit, favoring the offense. We see the 3-point shot take off with the Warriors. What do you think of the game as it is now, watching as a product? And then where do you think it's going to be in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't want to be the old guy and, back when I played, you know, these guys couldn't have played. They're not tough enough. Yes, they are. And the game has grown and it's expanded. These kids are much more skilled than probably we were. And you can credit a lot of that to Steph Curry. He's changed the game a lot, you know, with his shooting ability. But, you know, I appreciate the skill of the game. Now, the old school in me would like to see a little more banging and grabbing and, you know, the physicality of the game. But I appreciate how good these players are, how skillful they are, man. It's like poetry in motion. It's such a beauty to watch these great players, you know, on a night in and night out. So it's definitely an advantage for an offensive player. I even tell my son now, a 13-year-old, hey, you know, I want you to play hard and compete, but we're going to work on some offense, man, because, you know, great offense is always a little better than great defense. You know, you see people that can score great. Somebody can be a great defender, but if you know how to put that ball in the hole, then you'll put yourself in better positions where you can be successful. But the game has changed, and it's more catered to more of a skill set and an offensive player nowadays.
Hey, Mateen, off the top, I mentioned that you're part of the family here with the Truth Plus Media conglomerate. We do a bunch of different podcasts, and one of them is hosted by you. And tell me about it, called Run It Back. Tell me about the show and who you've talked to and some of your favorite episodes.
Oh, man, Run It Back. It's a fun show. And what it is we like want to talk to a lot of these college greats and just talk college basketball, their college experience. We don't, I don't care what you did in the NBA. I don't care what you did after the NBA. I don't care. I want to know, what kind of food you ate in college, what shoes you wore, what music you listened to, who was your favorite teammate, who was one of the top college basketball players that you played against, what was the NCAA tournament like? You know, those are the questions that I like to ask some of our college greats, and we've had some great ones, man. We had Anderson Hunt, was on that UNLV 1990 great team, one of my favorite teams of all time, and people don't even realize when he was the Final Four MVP. And he played with Larry Johnson, who was the #1 pick, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony. But he was the Final Four MVP. That's how great that team was. And we had Tyus Etney, who's had one of the most iconic plays in college basketball as great point guard at UCLA. And we had Tim Thomas and some great guys that was on Run It Back. So it's been such a joy, so much fun to do these podcasts, man. I've been having a joy doing them and talking to some of these guys about their college experiences.
I feel like you would be so good at drawing out really good stories from some of these guys too. Is there something that, I know it's hard to think of these stories off the top of your head, but to tease people to also tune in to Run It Back, is there something that stands out that really shocked you about a player, like a moment that they remember, a story or something funny?
Well, I know Tyus Etney, he broke the whole play down. When he made that iconic layup to win the tournament game, he broke that whole play down. So that was kind of cool. And then just listening to Anderson Hunt talk about that UNLV 1990 team and, how they had, I think it was a Millionaire Row or whatever. All these stars would come to their game. I mean, these are college basketball players. And it was like an NBA style of game when they played. And another thing I was impressed with, because they scored the basketball so easily, he talked about, like, if you didn't play defense, then Tarkanian didn't want to play you. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I thought they just rolled the ball out and let you guys play. So there's so many. And Kenny Anderson, like one of my favorite point guards of all time, and just listening to some of the battles he had, great battles he had against Bob Hurley and some of the great players that he played against. Like, it just, the list goes on and on. So it's definitely must-see TV. You want to tune in and hear some of these great stories, because if you're a college basketball fan, it'll take you right back down memory lane.
Edney gets the ball with 4.8 seconds to go. I think it was in Boise. Goes the length of the floor against Missouri and hits a layup to win the game. It always reminded me of watching, not that little, but like watching a minnow swim through an aquarium. He just swimming around bigger times, zip, zip, zip. And if you'll remember, our friend Marcus Johnson, who is a Sonics broadcaster and now works for the Bucks and just a terrific guy, and he had hats made that said this, they get the ball to Edney, and he turns and starts up court. Marcus is a player. He can see what's about to happen. And do you remember what he did as a broadcaster? Just underneath the play-by-play guy, he just goes, yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah. He said it like 5 times and then yelled, yeah, baby, when he hit the layup. I think it's one of the great calls you will ever hear. I called him Marcus, yeah, baby Johnson for a while after that, because that was, and it's something, isn't it? When you know this, people think of Mateen Cleaves, the first thing they think of is the 2000 championship. I guess we end this maybe where we began it. Somebody this weekend can become an icon. Somebody can I don't want to say make their career. They may go on and do other things, but it becomes a milepost in your career, like 2000 is for you. You won't ever be interviewed by anybody and they won't ask about that. They're always going to ask about what 2000 was like and what you remember and all that. I mean, that's part of it, right? I bet Magic told you that night too. This is something now for the rest of your life. You get this.
100%. I am like, and that's something I take pride in, and I appreciate it. I don't like, there's people that can't tell you, who I played for in the NBA, and that's okay with me. I'm a national champion. I'm a Final Four MVP, and like, that's something that I will hold on to for the rest of my life. Who cover Sports Illustrated, and I mean, like, who gets that? Not many people get a chance. And as a kid, you grow up. I know I did, listening to, watching One Shiny Moment every game, and to be that one shiny moment, to sit there and I tell people all the time, it was the first time in my life when I cried and the tears felt good. So that's a moment, that's something I will never ever forget in my life, and something that I hold near and dear, close to my heart.
That's awesome. Who cuts down the nets Monday night? We'll start with you as the former champion. You were saying Connecticut earlier. Is that who you're going with?
Yeah, I got to go UConn, and I don't want Ray to block my number.
That's right.
If I say anybody else, Ray Allen, he'll block my number, won't answer my call. So let's go UConn, baby.
This is not a pick with conviction. This is a pick to stay in Ray Allen's circle. We see what's going on here, Mateen. What about you, Alyssa? Who do you think cuts down the nets?
Really hard for me to pick against UConn because I watched that whole Gonzaga game. Their guards are so good, and I like their matchup against SDSU because SDSU has really good defense, but I think UConn can combat it. If anybody else does it, I think it's going to be Miami. I'd put it Miami or UConn.
Yeah, and I saved this for the end because I want Mateen to stay. I'm an Indiana alum, so I'm rooting for Miami because they knocked us out. We've had our problems with you guys over the years. Don't even get me started on our problems with Michigan State. But I like Larinaga. I like he's dedicated his whole life to basketball. All of these guys, anybody who's there, it's a neat time. So we'll get 2 Connecticut's and a Miami, and that means probably San Diego State wins the tournament. Just how it's gone this year. Mateen, you're a part of Sonic's history. The fact that you now are within hallway distance of the owner of the Suns, we're going to lean on you going down there. Hey, we talked about getting a team back to Seattle. You can spend your days doing that. We love Run It Back and those stories. It was fun of you and great of you to spend so much time with us. We really appreciate it.
And let me say, thanks for having me. Like, I'll tell you this, man. I mean this. Like, when I was in Seattle, that was one of the best times in my life. So I just really appreciate you guys having me on. I have the utmost respect for every player that came before me, and even the players that came after me. Sonic, being a Supersonic, that's something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and something I appreciate. So thanks for having me on. Our pleasure. Alyssa, great to see you. Thanks.
Thank you both.
Thanks again to Mateen Cleaves and Alyssa Charlston for joining us today on Iconic Sonics. Thanks to all of our sponsors for their help and support, and the continued support of Iconic Sonics. And if you'd like more information on today's show or other shows, both previous and upcoming, go to iconicsonics.com. I'm Mike Gastineau. We'll see you next time on Iconic Sonics.